I love this artifact because it perfectly captures what our nation was built upon. I used to work in the Texas House of Representatives. I worked in the 86th and 87th legislative sessions, and a question that I would ask representatives, senators, and lobbyists alike is, what do you think makes America exceptional? And I would get a range of different, very disappointing answers. I would get answers like, well, we are leaders in medical innovation and invention. Okay. That's good. Or we have freedom and we have liberty, or we have a very robust economy. And while all those things are good, I think we could all agree on that, that isn't what makes these United States exceptional. You see, what makes us set apart, what makes us different than any other nation on the face of the planet is that we hid in our hearts a promise. And it is in that document. And it starts like this, that we hold truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. So it doesn't matter what law is passed by Congress, or what order is signed by the president, or what opinion is rendered by the Supreme Court, because we believe that there is a supreme being who holds within his hand the destiny of every single nation. And it was from that promise we became the greatest nation to have ever existed in modernity. Ronald Reagan said during a speech, I wasn't alive for it, but he said during a speech at one point, he said, if anyone were to come up to me and ask, why is America so exceptional? He said, I would tell them, it's because here in this land, we unleashed the individual genius of man to a greater extent than had ever been done before. And how we accomplished that was through acknowledging that government was not supposed to lord over us, but was supposed to govern us into a better, brighter future and protect the rights that God gave to every individual in this room. Now, a lot of people, like the 1619 Project that Glenn was talking about a few minutes earlier, would say, Elijah, when Jefferson wrote all men are created equal, he wasn't talking about you. He wasn't talking about half of your family. He was talking about wealthy, white landowners who were sick of King George III and wanted to create a more perfect union without a king. That's why that document is so important, because this is the original draft of the Declaration of Independence. Now, if you look at the final draft, there are, depending on how you count, about 23 grievances. Well, there was a 24th that was ultimately left out. But what does that grievance state? What does it say? This is penned in Thomas Jefferson's own hand. It says, he has waged, meaning King George, a cruel war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur miserable death in their transportation thither. This piratical warfare, this opprobrium of infidel powers, is the warfare of a Christian king of Great Britain determined to keep open a market where men, all capitals, should be bought and sold. And that is a direct grievance against the king, talking about how you would not allow us to end slavery in the colonies, and this is one of the reasons why we're leaving. This is one of the reasons why we're getting out of here. And it's in that document right here. That is what America was built upon. That was the promise that we worked and labored and toiled for all of these years to perfect as a union. Now, someone might ask, well, Elijah, how come it didn't end up in the final draft of the Declaration if that's what they intended? because John Hancock stood up in the convention and he says, if we are going to win this war, we have to stand together. If there is so much as sunlight between our shoulders, King George will separate us and we will never become that more perfect union. So they held a secret vote. Now, if you listen to the 1619 Project, they would have you believe that every state voted to take that provision out of the Declaration of Independence. Does anyone know how many states or colonies voted to remove that last grievance I just quoted to you? Out of 13 colonies, 2. South Carolina and Georgia. The other 11 wanted to send that grievance to the king. So what does that tell you? Our nation was built upon the fundamental promises that all men were created equal. And we strove and labored for years to make that promise come true. So thank you.